It's time to have another conversation about Doc Rivers and his job security because this Sixers 1-4 start unacceptable. They've looked bad, and I think a lot of that is because of the coach, and I have some questions as to whether or not Philadelphia is still buying into what Doc Rivers is preaching. That's what we're talking about on today's show. First, though, how many subscribers can we pick up here on today's episode? Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below as we continue to ramp up our coverage here on Philadelphia 76ers Now. Greatly appreciate all the support. We're on the road to 10,000 subs. Let's get there as soon as possible. Another listless and ugly loss for the Philadelphia 76ers as they have begun this season, which started with really high expectations at just 1-4. They go down in Toronto last night by a final score of 119-109, and in the process, the Sixers now in the bottom of the barrel in the Eastern Conference. I understand it's early, but this is a team that was pegged to be one of the contenders in the Eastern Conference, and they've looked bad on all fronts. Offense, they've been bad and slow. Defense, they continue to get gashed, and it's time to have another conversation about Doc Rivers. I do first want to talk about Tobias Harris. I don't understand how this is possible when Tobias Harris at the end of last year was playing really good basketball. This is a guy who I think is somewhat underrated but overpaid, but how does he have just 5 shots in 35 minutes? Think about that. 5 shots in 35 minutes for Tobias Harris. Yes, Joel Embiid played well. Tyrese Maxey played well. In the early going, I really liked what I saw from James Harden. But 5 shots in 35 minutes, Toby, you have to be more aggressive. Doc Rivers, you have to get more out of one of your highest paid players. As for DeAnthony Melton, yes, he's dealing with a little bit of an injury, but I need to see more of DeAnthony Melton on the floor, especially in crunch time. This is a guy who can play make, he can create, he has some shake, he has some wiggle. That's that scoring punch that really could aid this basketball team coming down the stretch in some ball games. 22 minutes off the bench, he needs to be playing more, that too on Doc Rivers. We're going to get to the aforementioned Doc Rivers, or should I say Glenn Rivers, because like Mark Zumoff used to say, there's only one Doc in Philadelphia, and it's Dr. J. Julius Irving. But first, let me hear from you in the comment section. Your concern level with the Sixers start. Scale it for me 1 to 10. 1, not concerned. 10, very, very concerned. I'm at about a 7 or 8 right now. My problems with Doc Rivers. Let's just break it down here. And like I always try to do, let's keep it real, and I'm going to keep it a buck. Doc Rivers is flat out overrated. There's no other way to put it. He's also making $8.5 million per year. That's tied for the 3rd highest salary in the NBA. Doc Rivers is making the same amount of money per year as Erik Spoelstra. And Erik Spoelstra could coach laps around Doc Rivers just like he did in the second round of the playoffs. It is Greg Popovich, number 1. It is Steve Kerr, number 2. Doc Rivers at 3, and he's failed to deliver. We always talk about these blown leads in the playoffs as well for Doc Rivers, and he's blown a couple of them with the Philadelphia 76ers. And this is a guy who walks around like he is just God. He walks on water, right? And I understand that he's accomplished a lot of great things throughout his coaching career. But Doc, at some point you have to be real with yourself. You have to look in your mirror, which is what he doesn't do, which also irks me and rubs me the wrong way. You have not won a championship since 2008, and your teams have been primed to win championships many times since then. 2008 was a really long time ago. At that point, I was 16 years old. I was in high school. That was 14 years ago. What has Doc Rivers done since then? Hasn't made it to an Eastern Conference Finals outside of that stint with the Boston Celtics when they ran it back the following year, but no accountability for Doc Rivers. So it's time for him to look in the mirror. And that accountability factor also annoys me because when the media tries to question him, when clearly there should be a line of questioning of Doc Rivers and against Doc Rivers, he treats the media like garbage. And it goes back to my original point of him acting like he can't be questioned when there are a bunch of questions that should be asked to Doc Rivers about these blown leads, about the lack of adjustments, about his teams consistently underperforming. Doc, you got to be real with yourself, and if you're not real, we're going to be real, and sooner or later, your seat, the temperature beneath it should get ratcheted up, and honestly, I think we're looking at a situation in which Doc Rivers could get fired because I'm not sure if the players are buying into him. This isn't just a conversation that we're having locally. This is a conversation that is happening on the national landscape. Zach Lowe, Bill Simmons bringing it up as well. Doc Rivers, Bill Simmons has been saying it for weeks on his podcast that he could be the first coach fired. Certainly, people are chattering about that in the league ecosystem, but I don't know how much that chatter is actual reality, and this is Daryl Morey's team. This is the Rockets reunion tour. This is the, quote, I waited on my long-lost love, James Harden. I waited and got him back. This is it. Like, this is the team, and they just got to be better than this. To me, the offense is fine. Start trying in transition defense because what's on the floor right now is embarrassing. And the Sixers start has been embarrassing. Yes, the Boston Celtics got off to that slow start last year. They were able to turn the corner. They were able to make it to the NBA Finals and win the East. But the Boston Celtics have a level of mental fortitude that the Sixers do not have, they have not had, and Doc Rivers' teams have not had. And if the Sixers turn the ball over, nobody's getting back on defense. These are listless performances, and Joel Embiid is talking about the lack of effort that we're seeing. Yes, it comes down to the players on the roster, but also sometimes that message from your boss, sometimes the message from the head coach does get a little bit stale. It happened with Joe Girardi and the Philadelphia Phillies, and then John Middleton made that move to Rob Thompson. It worked wonders. And right now, I believe you have a very good coach who's sitting on that same bench in Sam Cassell. If this continues, I'm going to Sam Cassell to see if he could rejuvenate the Sixers roster because right now it is ugly. So who is to blame for the Sixers 1-4 start? Is it Doc Rivers? Or is it the superstars? Embiid, James Harden, Daryl Morey? I want you to drop a name in the comment section. Another reminder to subscribe to the channel. Just hit that subscribe button down below. News, rumors, analysis. We cover it all here on the channel. Let's get to 10,000 subs ASAP. Some concerning trends for Philadelphia so far, and a big reason why they are off to this bad 1-4 start. Bench points per game, 17.5. That's 30th in the NBA. When you brought in D'Anthony Melton, when you have Montrezl Harrell, as well as Shake Milton, that's been a big surprise, and Matisse Thybulle got DNP'd yet again last night. Like, he is in the coach's doghouse. And yes, Matisse Thybulle has hurt himself with his inability to knock down three-point shots, but come on, your defense sucks, your transition defense is garbage, and Matisse Thybulle can't see any tick? What's going on there? Also, the Sixers, last in pace in the NBA. It is the slowest pace among all teams over the last 6 years. Their fast break points per game, it is 29th in the NBA. And at the end of the day, a lot of this comes down to coaching. These teams who just don't buy into what the coach is preaching, lack effort. They lack the want-to, and that's what I'm seeing from the Sixers right now. Also, they just look unprepared night in and night out. As for what Doc Rivers had to say about that loss to the Toronto Raptors, who are kryptonite to the Philadelphia 76ers, if we're keeping it honest, at the start of the game, we just gifted the baskets. When you look at the box, all the quarters after that are basically even. It's the first quarter that we got off to such a slow start, and their guys, they just got going. We just gifted guys shots early. You know, it's hard to win a game like that, especially when you're behind to start with. The film is going to say a lot. Doc, you got to get your guys ready to play, man. You got to get your guys amped up. And if they're not amped up, once again, that is a problem. And he said this the other day, we're just not ready to win. How is this team not ready to win? You look at the starting five, it's loaded. James Harden looks like the James Harden of a couple of years ago. Not quite prime James Harden, but that's okay. He doesn't need to be. Tyrese Maxey went off last night. You have Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid. You have a loaded roster. You brought in PJ Tucker. Tobias Harris, like, he's just not playing well. What is going on, and how are you not ready to play when you're deemed to be an Eastern Conference contender? Doc, got to be better. And if you're not, we'll see your ass out of here. If you still believe in this squad, I want to hear from you in the comment section. It's 1-4. It's an 82-game regular season schedule, but the flags are starting to wave here. There are red flags everywhere, but if you believe in this squad, type 76. Appreciate all of you for watching the show. Don't forget to subscribe and keep it locked for more Sixers coverage.